I truly don't know if there is a better way to finish this series than to have a very, very poignant, introspective character study on Franklin's sake. I'm going to give you my thoughts and reactions to the series finale of Snowfall right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Final episode of Snowfall is here, ever, called The Struggle. Boy, is that a poignant title. It was a big whopping hour and a half, so we're getting our bang for our buck for this one. I think the high that was at for the last episode, Sacrifice, for a lot of people, that could have been the final episode. I think it ended in a way that, oh yeah, Teddy dies. We don't really need to see much more beyond that. It kind of like, you can leave us up to our imaginations. And so anything that they had to do would either have to go super more violent and just get excessive, or choose the path that they did and go and be an introspective character study. And this episode sort of acts as a coda to the last episode, but as coda to the series as a whole. And we get in pretty depth to the manicness that can happen when somebody is addicted to something. Whereas we've always seen that it was the drugs that had an effect on the community. Money had an effect on Franklin, and much in the way that we have seen a lot of the crackheads do whatever they possibly can to hold on and get that next fix. Franklin's doing the exact same thing in this episode, and it is sad to watch, but brilliantly acted. Kudos to Damson in this, because he's killing it. He's basically playing 3 different versions of Franklin in this, and it is very well executed. But to start off, we pick up right after the last episode, right after the shot around the world. And Franklin runs into a bar. Sounds like a joke. Black man walks into a bar. We walk into a bar and he gets on the phone with V. And he tells V, like, hey, mom shot the whole thing to hell. Like, the plan is over. Why would she do that? He's freaking out. He's kind of going into a mental break. Like, why would she do that? Why would she do that? She messed up everything. I mean, she's like, she just sat there and then she said goodbye. Like, he was kind of going through all of it in his head at that moment. And then this is where the part of the episode where I screamed out to the television, no, because we've known how much, how calculated Franklin has always been about his business and what he was doing. He goes to sit at the bar. Nobody's in the bar. And the bartender sees how just down and just glass-eyed he is. And he's like, hey, look, this one's on me. And he pours him a drink and he just leaves it there. And we all know that Franklin throughout history has never taken a drink. He's never sipped on alcohol, and he's never done any drugs. That's sort of what his moral code was. It gave him sort of purpose. He was defined by that, and it kept him kind of on the straight and narrow. It allowed him to be a little bit more even keel, and allowed him to think a little bit more on his feet. He grabs that glass and starts putting it towards his lips, and I'm just like, no, God, no, please don't. Please don't. And he takes that sip. From that point on, I know there's a downward spiral. If for nothing else, they say that alcoholism isn't genetic, but his father went down this path of drugs and alcohol. He's going to be an addictive person. You can see how addictive he is with the money, and if that's not there, he's fixing the loss of money with the addictiveness of alcohol, and he's using the alcohol now to fill the gap that he does have now that he doesn't have the money, and it just creates a mess of a man. While he's at the bar, he gets a page from one of the alphabet guys, CIA, who tells him, hey, the asset, put him in the trunk of your car, bring him to his address, and drop him off, and then just pull off and leave. And he does so, much to Ruben's disagreement. He just did not want to do this. He's like, nah, don't do that. Now, mind you, at this point, Franklin's already starting to feel the alcohol. Like, the alcohol, it's shot in a way that you can start seeing that he's a little bit more disoriented. He's a little bit more sweating. We're seeing the effect that alcohol is immediately having on somebody who has never had it before. But he takes him to the spot, pulls him out. Ruben's still like, hey, yo, don't do this, Franklin. And he's screaming from their life. As Franklin pulls off, we see 3 men sort of come from the shadows and grab Ruben, and that is the last that we see of him. And then Franklin sort of just peels off. There are multiple times in this episode where Franklin could have gone on the right, where if he wasn't so much trying to just hold on to that last bit of dollars or whatever, he could have gone the correct way, but he just keeps spiraling down where the amount gets smaller and smaller. He was doing this for 70 something million dollars, then it went to 37, and then it become less and less. So he meets up with Lee the next day, and Lee is sort of rallying the troops, like, "Hey, I don't know what this area is about to become. We're gonna have to find a new connect. It's about to be the Wild Wild West, but just keep your eyes up." So Lee and Franklin start to have a conversation, and Lee lets Franklin know, like, "Hey, I tried to go see Sissy. I sent Poindexter down to go see him, Sissy, but they're not letting anybody in." And Franklin just dismisses it immediately. He's like, "Man, we ain't talk about nothing about Sissy. She made her bed. She chose what. There's nothing we can do for her at this point." And Lee sort of just takes that back and looks and thinks it in, lets it soak over him. And he's like, "I'm not going to be so quick to dismiss Sissy, but okay, let me hear you out." Franklin asks for more money. He's like, "I know I owe you 500,000. I'm gonna give you that." He starts doing the things that a lot of drug addicts do. It's like, "Yo, I'll suck this. I'll do this. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'm gonna take that money. I'm gonna flip it this way. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. In 5 years, you're gonna have your money five times 10 more than what you put into it. I got you." Mind you, Lee's not said he's going to give him the money, but he's spiraling down this thing where he's like, "I'm going to tell you everything I'm going to do. That way you can go ahead and give me this money and not feel like like you're doing me a handout or a favor. I'm doing this, and we're going to become good business partners in this." Lee is like, "Cool, that's all fine. Do you have any idea why Sissy did what she did?" And he's like, "Yeah, because she snapped. She's crazy. Who gonna shoot a white man in broad daylight like that? She done lost her mind." Lee says, "Sissy did it to save you." And Franklin's like, "Do I look safe? Do you look safe? Like, what the?" And he starts flipping off to the point where he then threatens Lee. Not really in the right state of mind. Again, that alcohol is not working in his favor anymore. Because he's in Lee's clubhouse. He's in Lee's place. And so his people start holding their weapons, holding their guns. He realized, like, yeah, this ain't the place to do this. I can't do this. At that point, Franklin's like, this is how we're going to end this. And no, is this really how you want to end this? To which Lee just says no. And then they part ways. So you can already see that some of the people that were his ride or dies, Franklin is now just pushing away. Mainly because he probably felt his mom sort of pushed herself away. That was one person he thought was in his corner. She pushed him away. And now he's sort of feeling like, I can't trust anybody, and I don't really have anybody to ride with me into this. But he continuously F's up all the people that were in his corner because Franklin is spiraling down. The struggle is real. Franklin attends Sissy's arraignment, to which I don't know how he thought this was going to be a good idea, because you are the son of the person who just shot somebody, and for some circles are known as a pretty prominent drug figure. But he does. He goes and shows up, and Sissy says she's guilty. She's like, "Nope, I killed him." And then she starts spiraling out, like, "I killed the man who was funneling drugs into my community, and then turn that money back," and kind of just lets it all out, letting about the CIA, and that's all stricken from the record. But she's just out there talking. She is not shutting up at all. And then she's also not getting bail. Franklin leaves, and as he's leaving, he's followed by an LAPD officer who's kind of just like, "I know who you are. I know what you're up to. I know that's you're Franklin Saint. You might have all these other people full, and like all these bodies that have dropped at your hands." To which Franklin, at this point, still feels pretty confident about himself. Like, "Look, man, you got something. Pull the trigger. If you're feeling froggish, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, get the hell out of my face." And he calls him Uncle Tom. He calls him a couple other N-words that are not flatterable, and he speeds off. We then see Wanda and Lee. This is the last time we're going to see Wanda. We see Wanda and Lee having a conversation, and this Wanda is saying, she asked first, "Do you think Franklin's going to come back to retaliate against you because you're not giving him the money?" Because Lee's biggest thing is like, "I'm not giving you this money because Sissy did what she did to help save you. She feels that the money is poisoning you," which we can see that it is. But it looks like he's traded one poison in for another with the alcohol. But if that's what she wanted, then I'm not going to go against her wishes. So he's choosing not to give a life raft, so as Franklin has said. But Lee's like, no, he's not going to come here. Plus, he's not going to come to the hood to do this. Like, this is our spot. He's not going to come here to do this. It's at that point that Wanda's like, "I got to leave. I can't be here anymore. The shelter is going to fall under because Sissy's no longer here to pay for it. And I don't like what this place has become. So I'm leaving." So she's like, "I'm going to go back to Ghana." So at that point, Lee grabs the money and gives it to her. And she's like, I don't want your money." He's like, "Nope, you're my wife. You're entitled to this money. I'm going to give it to you." She starts breaking down though, because at no point does Lee say, I don't want you to go, or I'm coming with you. It's like, cool, go ahead and do that. I got to stay here to make his amends as he wants to. And so she starts kind of crying. It's just sort of a sad moment because all she wants is either A, you to say you really want me to stay here with you, or you're coming with me. And he chose neither in that moment. These are interesting because it happens a couple of times. You can see the progression of how it gets worse and worse. But Franklin goes to see Sissy in jail. So they're in that screen, that glass window where one's on one side with the phone, the other's on the other side. Sissy is not saying a word. She is just staring at Franklin and just looking at how she's in sheer disappointment of how much of a downward spiral he has gone in. And she probably doesn't know that he's on alcohol, but she can tell as these scenes keep happening that he's on something now, and he's just progressing worse and worse. But in the first time they meet, he goes and tells her like, "Hey, you can still get some help. You can get out of this." Prentice just said we can go ahead and kind of fix this and say that you were kind of crazy and that, but you need to stop talking now because you're going to end up on a bed sheet or rope somewhere that people who keep saying these things about the Alphabet Boys don't end up in the best way. Then he starts kind of like, I guess, replaying what happened in his head. He's like, why did you do this? Like, we were seconds away from having the money. And he starts going off. He starts getting a little upset with her. He's like, not super disrespectful, but kind of just, oh, we were so close. We were right there. But he's still kind of himself in that moment. Says he doesn't want to hear it. She just hangs up the phone and just kindly walks away. The next morning, Paul Davis, who is an investor who wants to like buy property or whatnot, he shows up to Franklin's house, Sissy's house, and he asks about the Spring Street development, the development that he and V have, the big one, basically their boardwalk, the big one that they have together. He asks about it, and he's like, "Hey, look, I'm trying to see what your selling offer is." Franklin's a little bit confused because like, I didn't ask to have a meeting or have any type of idea that we're selling. Like, we're not in the meeting for selling. And he's like, oh, your partner did. So Franklin's all pissed now that B has kind of gone behind his back and made this business deal. Here goes Franklin again, pushing away another person that was a ride or die. This woman brought fish grease to the interrogation with Teddy. She about that life, and you just pushed her away. So in this next part, he goes up to V and tells her like, "Yo, I sold all of our other properties to this one south. That's basically a hood development to help us back up so that we can keep money going, so that we don't lose the Spring Street." And she's like, "I wasn't saying that we were going to take the offer. I just wanted to see what that dollar amount to look like, so that we can see what we can sort of come up with, what we can have in our money." All he sees is that she just went behind him. He's like, the one thing that I told you to do when we first got together on the Malibus, to be loyal, but two, don't go behind my back. And he's doing this by choking her. And it's the first time that he's ever put his hands on her. And it sort of probably immediately reminded her of her mom and her many relationships, things that she had been going to bat for, again, saying that he's never done any harm to me. He's done everything else for our family and everything else, but he's never put harm to me. And now he has. So that subsequently is going to set V off. I don't know what, again, not in his right frame of mind. I don't know what he's thinking, but I don't see how he didn't see this going the way that it goes. What really gets messed up in this scene is that he kind of starts talking a lot like Teddy, where he, she says, "Oh, after he tells her that he sold all the places to the one company," she's like, "Oh, well, now you've sunk us." And he's like, I don't think I have. But if I did, I got every right to. This is my shit. I made this. I built this. I built this for us. I built this for you. Like, I can do whatever the hell I want to. You don't get any say in this." And he kind of just starts continuously saying that I'm up here, all of you, the rest of you are down here. And this is sort of where Louis and Jerome had always kind of had a problem with. You're also now doing this to your wife, who is supposed to be your partner, and you're just treating her like she is crap. A very different approach in the way that Sissy talks to Lee. So Lee goes to see her, and they have a genuine conversation. And you can see that she's got nothing but like hope and dreams for him in her eyes. She tells Lee that she did the only thing in her eyes that she could do and live with, like wake up and live with, in that moment. And Lee's like, "We don't have to explain anything to me." He did say he's going to go on to continue funding the shelter. And at that point, she asked about Wanda, and he said, well, Wanda's gone back to Ghana. To which you can see her heartbreak, because she closes her eyes and she kind of is like, look, I truly do admire what it is you're trying to do. Like, I get it. She knows that he's trying to like make amends for all the harm that he has done. It's like, I don't like the way you're going about doing it. So I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. I'm gonna need you to, when we get off of this, stop worrying about my son. My son's a lost cause. You're not going to be able to fix my son. He is going down this path and nobody can do anything about it. But you, there's still hope for you. So I'm going to need you to go put some books in in a bag and go be with your wife. And don't look back. Just go there and go. One of the biggest failures that I have in my life is Franklin. There's nothing like he's a lost cause. There's nothing I can do about it. One of the biggest surprises that I have is you. And I am very proud of you. And he says, I love you. She says, I love you back. It's a genuine moment. That's, for Lee, that is his mom. And for her, that's the son that actually does mean something, or has taken some of the values that she has, and not been sort of corrupted by all of this. We watch more Franklin just spiraling out of control. Franklin goes to the bank that he has co-loaned with his wife. Dumbass, just didn't think about any of this. And wants to get an extension and get some loans like expanded upon, take a lien against, blah, 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 doing a lot of numbers, but he basically wants to get more money so that he can have liquid cash in his hand to kind of sustain before whatever his next plan is. But he goes there, Philip's there, who's the bank person. Philip tells him like, hey, yo, this is what V was talking about earlier, because she came earlier and took all the liquid cash out. And at that point, you start sort of seeing a spiral, like the world is spiraling around him. You get a moment where Phil's gone, but you can just see him just empty in there. Some of this is the effect of anxiety that it is kind of happening and losing everything and not having any money, but also is the drinking that he's doing. He drank some Jack in the car and came in here and did this. Everything is being taken away from him. So V has taken the money and gotten the hell out of Dodge. She's finally listened to her mom and is probably gallivanting around the world, having a good old time with being pregnant and her mama. At this point, Franklin returns to Sissy to go see her again. This is the last time that we see Sissy, and it does not go well, to say the least. Franklin goes in sweating, completely profuse, just looking like a hot mess. And you can tell that Sissy knows that he's gone. Like he is drunk or on high or some type of drug. Money could just be the drug. But he goes in screaming like, hey, yo, Beach robbed me. That little bitch took everything from me. She ain't nothing, blah, blah, blah. But here's what we got to do. I bought that house for you, but I need to sell it. So if I got to sell the house, I need you to sign it over to me saying that it's okay and that I can get that so that I'll have some type of liquid cash. And Sissy's not responding. She's not saying a word. And he's like, you hear me? Like, you're not going to get out of here. Like, so the house don't mean nothing to you. Just go ahead and give me that house. And for her, it does mean something. Something that she and Allison grew up, like, came together in. She had her kid in. It does mean something. Even if she's not going to be in it, it does mean something. She wants her family to stay in her family's name. But she's not giving Franklin satisfaction of having any. I'm not giving you a life raft to give you more money so you can kind of like get out of this. He then starts disrespecting her. When she doesn't respond, she just hangs up again and walks away. And he starts calling her everything but a child of God. He's like, Teddy should have shot you dead. F you. You did this to me. F you, you bit. I mean, it's rough. In a very different way of how her actual son responded to her versus the way that Lee, who is her sort of surrogate kid. We then, in that coda episode, as we get a 3-month time jump. And so we sort of see that life has sort of still been rough for Franklin. He is still trying to grasp on and hold on to those last straws of whatever money he can find in anything. So he's on with banks regularly. He's drinking on with banks, trying to like move money from one spot to another, basically hide money here, put it here, steal from one to give to another. He's just trying to keep this cycle going so he can stay afloat. And the banks aren't having it anymore. They're like, no, we're done here. We can't do this anymore. You can tell he's drinking. Things are sort of disheveled. The house looks like a mess. He's become sort of a recluse. It's heading into a bad direction. You think it's a page, and it's from his PI that he had to go look for Teddy's father. This is the PI that he now has going to look for V and Veronique. He says that he gets there. He says, like, I'm not looking for V anymore. I'm done. I'm not looking for her. And he's like, wait, you gonna quit? He's like, yeah, I'm done. But here, this is something you've been looking for a while. Here you go. I knew immediately what it was. I'm like, we got to close. There is one loop that this entire season has not mentioned that I'm like, we got to close that out. It's the Peaches of it all. And so Peaches returns to us. And so Franklin goes up to Peaches' crib, strapped, ready for war. He doesn't come in through the front door. Obviously, he comes in through the back. He's hopping over. He thinks this is my last dish effort. That mug stole $5 million from me. He still got it from somewhere. Which, frankly, if you're in your right mind, you would know that a junkie is that $5 million is long gone. But let's play the game, shall we? Franklin goes and he runs and he sees Peaches, who's high as a kite on the couch, and he's like, "Oh, Franklin, my man, Franklin Saint." And they share some words back and forth, and he's like, "Look, I didn't know you. When people said that you were in Monrovia, I thought it was across the country, Monrovia. I didn't realize it was 25 minutes away." But in this, he's saying, "Hey, do you still have any more of that $5 million?" And Peaches like, "Yeah, I got it. It's in the safe in the back." It's all right, cool, and get on up and go ahead and show it to me. Franklin, not being in his right mind, not checking the scenario, being half drunk, being in a rush, being anxious, lets Peaches get the drop on him. And Peaches takes a shot, but he's so high, he misses completely. And then Franklin shoots Peaches and kills him. Then he goes and sees that there is a safe in the back. He's like, okay, cool, there was a safe back here. Bet. I don't know the combination. So you then see him frantically going from place to place to like, got to find the combination. He's trying to look at his ID. He's trying to guess what Peaches would think of, what numbers he would come up with. Nothing's working. So the next thing is call locksmith and come in and see if they can break it up. So Miguel shows up and kind of comes through the house. And he's like, yeah, my name's Chris. Come on in the back. He's like, your place is just you here? Like, yeah, it's just me. At this point, Franklin has moved Peaches' body away and kind of like wipes some things down so there's no blood around. And takes Miguel to the safe. And Miguel starts cracking it. He gets the first one. He has to put burr holes into the safe to kind of unlock it. Does the first one. Easy breezy. As he's working on the second one, another crackhead shows up. So a white gentleman shows up and he's like, hey, who are you? And at that point, you just see like Franklin's, for the second time, he is so close to the money on the other side. And he's thwarted again. And so this guy shows up and he's like, where's Peaches? And he's like, he's out back. And he's like, no, he's not. And so Franklin kind of leads him off to the side. He's like, Miguel, keep working on that safe. I'll be right back. He takes this gentleman off to the side a little bit, and then you hear 2 gunshots go off. And at that point, Miguel's like, well, what the hell am I into? And he tries to leave out the window. That ain't happening. He comes back in. Franklin comes back in the room and is like, look, I'm not going to harm you. I don't want to harm you at all. Just open the safe. I'm going to let you go. Just open the safe. Miguel opens the safe. The safe opens. Franklin has a bit of just hysterical laughter, panic attack, anxiety, and just like, I've lost. There's nothing else that I can actually do. Everything that I thought every nook and cranny that I could for some type of money is now gone. Because inside the safe, he has Miguel count it. It's only 12 grand. That's it. Obviously, a junkie's not going to hold on to 5. By that point in time, however many months, years have passed, he done smoked all that up. And so he tells Miguel to go ahead and put that money in his pocket. And Miguel's like, hey, look, I'm not going to say a word to anybody. I got kids. I'm going to tell the police that it was some white crackhead that came up in here. He's like, all right, I appreciate you, man. He tells him to put the money in there. He's like, nope, money's yours. Go ahead and keep it in there. And you can go ahead and leave. He tells him to leave. And then he shoots him in the back. And that might be the most coward. Like, Franklin's done some bitch ass stuff before, but that might be the most coward thing that I've seen him do. But it's for him that shows you how rock bottom he's hit. Like there's nothing for him. There is nothing else he can do. Every nook cranny, the house he can't sell, V's taking the money. Any outlet he had is now gone, and that's just his end game. He's like, nope, I can't let this one guy be the one person kind of do me under. I'm just done. And I think that was more of a, for a brief moment, I do think he was going to let that guy go, and he's like, nope, screw it, I can't. I'm done. And out of anger and frustration, that's what he did. We then sort of get a catch up on our three main characters that are still alive outside of Lee. We first see Louie on the run. And this is sort of has been her life. The DEA show up to a ranch somewhere out in BF, and she is sort of crouching down below a window while the DEA asks these two ranch hands, have they seen her? And she goes by a name of Carla Huggins lately, and they just kind of got a tip that she may be there. And like, she was here. This is what the handlers are saying. Like, she was here, but she went away. And we have people pass through here all the time. And they're like, okay, cool. If you see anything or know anything, let us know. And at this point, we just see a camera of her just cowering in fear. So for the rest of her life, this leads us to believe that for the rest of her life, this is what it is for her. She's got to always sort of be on the run because the DEA knows her and they're going to be coming after her, guns a-blazing. We then see Gustavo is teaching wrestling for young kids, and he's still checking that phone number every day. And he finally checks it, and this time there's a message on it, and it's from his girl and 2 kids, and she's like, "We finally settled in at North Carolina." And I don't know if you're still tracking this, but if you are, we're safe. And much to my mother's dismay, if you are safe and you are hearing this, we would really like to see you. And that's all we get there. We don't know if he's going to. We don't know what. Safety-wise, it would make the most sense for him to remain there. But you still have that hope that maybe one day he'll reach out to them or call them or get some type of kind of information to them that they can kind of reunite at some point in time. There's hope for that situation, whereas none for Louis. But you know who there's even less hope for? Oh, Franklin. Some more time has passed. What is believed to be years, we'll say 4 to 5. It's kind of what a number is said in the conversation that Lee and Franklin had leads us to believe that about 5 years have passed. Meanwhile, these folks on the block don't know who Lee is because Lee shows up to Franklin's home and there's the 3 corner boys there about to like pull, hey, yo, what's that you playing? And like, yo, I'm from here, blah, blah, blah. Is there somebody inside that house? I'm like, hey, if you want to call somebody living, sure. And he's sort of now, Franklin has now become the town joke, the Alton of the town, if you will. He's become his father. Lee goes knocking on the door a bunch of times. He sees eviction notices. There's trash everywhere. There's furniture outside. Franklin finally opens the door and then locks it immediately because he's also, in addition to being drunk and sort of anxious, he's also paranoid because it's like these people, the DA are always all after him. They're trying to take everything. He's just a man broken about himself. But he's in full crackhead mode. Like he's got bad teeth. He's wearing wife beaters with holes in them. He's letting the beard grow. He's got like a busted eye socket, like it's red on his eye. He's just in a bad way. He's got a crackhead laugh now. Like he's a mess, a shell of his former self. The cool, calm, and calculated Franklin that we saw in the middle of the series. We saw the young, not knowing, getting into over his head Franklin at the very beginning. The very cool, calm, and calculated one. The one who sort of had this descent into madness off of money. And now this is what we are left with, this shell of a man. He and Lee start walking down the back alley, and they're just walking and talking. Lee does ask once, like, where are we going? But Franklin doesn't bring it up. They're just having a conversation. And sort of, this is our way to catch up on the last couple of years of each other's life. For Lee, he lets know that Wanda is doing well. She's getting into music and becoming a music act. Franklin's like, wait, what? Get the hell out of here. Franklin lets him know that V has called him once in this time and let him know that they do have a son together. And that her whole goal is like, I'm not putting our son in the same vicious cycle that you are in. She basically doesn't want Franklin's become Alton. She doesn't want her son to become Franklin. And so she's like, I'm keeping him in schools outside of America and keeping him well educated and whatnot to give him a chance, a fighting chance. And hopefully you could take some solace in that. She's like, no, I don't want no solace in that. There's a funny line here where he's like, how can a sexy chocolate nigga like me can't keep a bitch? It's the way that he says it. And I'm sure the laugh was in there for Leon, but it seems so genuine that that's a line that the way he reads, the way he comes off with that line and the way that Leon responds to it, just seems like that's probably the most genuine moment the two of them have had since all of this crack epidemic has started for the two of them. It's also amazing that the show ended with the two of them and also began with, like, those two are the bookends of everything that sort of has happened in the middle. Leon has started a legal practice, and he started a free legal clinic to sort of help people who are in bad situations. And Franklin's like, oh, man, you always said you were going to do something with helping people, even the people who don't want to help themselves or get any help themselves. That's an admirable thing. Leon is doing this and telling him this because he wants to offer Franklin, like, hey, Franklin, I'm offering off an olive branch. Can you come help me? And my man Franklin's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Real quick, you got any money? Like, he just completely changed the subject. And at that point, you see that the path that they were taking was to the corner alcohol, the liquor store. It's at that point that Lee realized that everything that was going on, everything that we were talking, we were kind of reuniting, getting back to where we were. It was all because he just needed to get to the corner store and get that next fix of alcohol. That's what his life's become. They start heading back to the house, and right as they get in front of the house, they see police are preparing to bust into Franklin's last sissy's home and take it over. And so the only thing that Franklin still had left was that home, and now that's gone. Now he's losing that. And Lee's like, hey, look, real quick, I can pay for that. Like, I can get that house. I can take care of everything. And my man Franklin's like, nah, no, we're good. He tells him, I'm free. I got no chains on me, man. I'm completely free. I'm not free in the way that you like me to be free. I'm not free in the way that they want me to be free. But I am free. Which is a poignant and sad thing, but he's no longer now in the system. He's not being called by the police, but he's also not under the guise of the CIA. But they broke him. They took a man, a kid, who was smart, maybe too smart for his own good, broke him. But now all the chains that they still would have had on him are now gone. And now he's going to be sort of this recluse that is basically, he's basically Alton 2.0 in current day. What he does say to Lee before we sort of had the two of them separate and walk their ways, he lets Lee know that he's proud of him, which is just a heartfelt moment, because underneath all of that stuff that's happening, that has happened, and underneath all the stuff that we see with the busted teeth and the red eye and the wife beater and all that stuff, you do still have two friends who genuinely cared about each other. And they have just gone along certain pathways that have led to this point. But in that, he's like, you are my best friend. You were the person who were with me no matter what we were going through. It was the two of us. And I'm proud of you. And he makes sure he's like, you hear me? I'm proud of you. And to that point, Lee sheds a tear because he knows that that's genuine. Like, he knows that this isn't Franklin throwing some BS or making like this came from the heart. And at that point, Franklin just sort of walks off. He is now a victim and a product of what he sort of created has broken him so much and broken the world. Unlike where we've always seen the crackheads and what sort of they go through, we see them trying to get the fix. We just saw an entire episode of the struggle somebody is to try to get that next fix. In this case, it's money. And it just gets worse and worse and worse to the point where now they're just now a part of the community. They're this homeless, rambling man. And you just think about, kind of think like anybody who lives I live in LA, where we have a huge homeless problem. This is a part of that. We're like, oh, that man had a life. He had something. And then something went left. In this case, his mother tried to save him. And I think it was for the best. But unfortunately, he couldn't see what she was doing, and just kind of progressively, the liquor didn't help. He just progressively got worse and worse to this point where now he is the shell of a man. So Sissy's two boys, Lee being the other, one of them is now victim to the system. The other has at least some type of life to hold on to and try to reclaim and fix what this system has done, and fix it for people who are exactly what Franklin has become. A poignant coda. Again, I think the season could have ended. The series could have ended with last week's episode, but I think he would have been on too much of a cliffhanger for a lot of these things. I think this is a great character piece. I think Damson playing almost 3 different versions of Franklin in this over a course of time is just brilliant, and sad to see. To see somebody who was so angry about people who he loved. He pushed V and choked V out of his life. He pushed his mother out of his life. He, in a way, pushed Lee out, but Lee wasn't giving up on him. So Lee came back. He's the one that returned. I think that's sort of what he means is you're my best friend, where he feels like his mom pushed him away and wouldn't even speak to him again. V left and just wouldn't return. He's pushed Lee away a couple of times, but Lee has always come back to check in on him. And I think in that moment, he's like, this is a good friend. You have genuinely cared about me, even when I just didn't give a damn. And I think it all comes together with a nice little cherry on top. The series as a whole was really good. I know a lot of people like to give season 5 hell. I'm one of them. But I think when you go back to look at this season and you kind of watch them all in a row, sort of like I watched The Wire late. And so I binged them. Like I watched all of season 1 and season 2, season 3. And for me, I didn't have any ups or downs or letdowns. I liked season 2 in real time as I was watching it. But I also wasn't waiting week to week to watch it. And I think when you sometimes get the height of what season 1 was versus that, I feel like that's a little bit what happened with Snowfall. I think some of season 5, because you're waiting for week to week. The Tiger episode, I still think is a bit too on the nose. But I think the character study of the drugged wedding and all that play into the mindset of where Franklin was going as far as how this was sort of starting to consume him, and kind of made this inevitable fall from grace that which he's in that much more inevitable. So I think as a whole, the series really works, and I think it'd be good to kind of go back and revisit this, to watch from beginning to end, to now see what the rise, the height, and the fall of Franklin Saint. What did you guys think about this episode, the coda, if you will, called The Struggle, and the series as a whole? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.